Hello and welcome to Just One More Thing, a weekly podcast about knitting and crafting. I'm your host, Janessa, and you're getting kind of the late edition today because it's already about 1 o'clock here in Missouri on this late August afternoon, and so it probably won't go up until like pretty late tonight. But at least it's Tuesday, right? Like I'm on the right recording day. You got to give me that. I'm giving me that. Sorry. My foot itches. So, anyway, late edition and also probably a little bit of a short edition. There's not a ton of stuff to talk about today, but it's all good. So, let's get started. I don't have any FOs to share. It is cool enough that I have broken out the Ho-He mystery wrap and am wearing that on today's podcast to keep my shoulders warm. I love fall weather, and it's starting to feel like fall. We're gonna get like a really late in August, early September like heat wave. I know we will. And I'll be like, ugh. But for now, bring on fall weather, wearing knit things, drinking lots of coffee, apple picking. We have an apple tree in my front yard, so the kids have been picking lots of apples, and that means I've been making lots of applesauce and apple crisp and all other kinds of fun appley things. So here comes the sun. It's a little overcast today, so if the lighting like gradually shifts in and out, it's just clouds rolling over. So yeah, no FOs of like a major project to speak of, but I do have mini shawl FOs. So do you guys remember last week I talked about a challenge knit along that Frenchie from Aroha Knits? I'm still not entirely sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, but we're just going to roll with it. She's doing kind of like a week-long challenge of knitting mini shawls so that it's like a swatch of a shawl, so that you can kind of familiarize yourself with different shawl techniques, different construction techniques, different knitting techniques that those regional shawls use. There was a little bit of a hiccup last week when this was all supposed to happen. She was finding one too many errors in some of the patterns, and she didn't want that frustration to go forward, so she kind of like put a halt on the challenge and like quickly got things retest knit, retech edited, and started again this week. So last week when it was going on, I showed you that I was knitting on this, and it is done. The first day, and these are all like regional things. So the first day was we're traveling to the Shetland Islands and we're learning about Shetland knitting. And so this was the swatch for the first day, Shetland Lace. And the nice thing about this one was it was all in stockinette. So it's totally reversible. And I liked it. This was one where you knit the body and then the lace edge is knit on. So you knit the whole body part and then you flip it and you knit this on. And the nice thing about this pattern is because the body is just plain, and all the lace comes down here in the edging, you could knit this up into like a full-size shawl. So even though it was just a swatch, like a one-day quick little project to kind of see if you liked it, it's definitely one of those that you could knit up and do full size. And I think that was her intent with all of these, is that you could eventually make like a full-size shawl out of them. So then day 2 was Estonia. Here is the Estonian lace. And Estonia is known for these noops, which are these little almost bobbly looking things on there. So that was the Estonian Lace. Am I showing that on the right side? I believe I am. Noops are not my favorite little bobbly thing to knit. It took a little bit of getting used to. I had to use a crochet hook for them. It all turned out in the end. I don't know that I would want to do like a full-on shawl with that much nooping involved. But anyway, it was a fun little quick knit for that one. So that was the point where she put the hold on the project and decided to restart this week. So starting on Monday, she started over with the Shetland Lace, but she kind of stretched it out. So instead of 5 days, she's doing like 2 days for each swatch, so that it gives people time to knit them, because not everyone's a super fast knitter. For those of us who had already done the Shetland Lace, though, she put out a bonus mystery pattern. So here's my Shetland Lace number 2. Now this one was also written in garter. Did I say that this was in stockinette? I meant this was in garter. This one was all in garter. This one was also written in garter, but I decided to knit it in stockinette, just to give a little bit of a different, to see how it looked differently. I kind of like it. I kind of like how it blocks out in stockinette. So there was the garter one. And there was the stockinette one. So different, basically a different lace pattern is what she did for the knitting on version. The basic construction of it was the same. So those are my 3 shawl swatches. Say that fast. Shawl swatches. And yes, I have to move my mouth like that, or I can't say it. Those 2 sounds together, I can't do. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what the bonus Estonian pattern is tomorrow, and then going forward with the other 3 over the next couple of weeks. I'm excited to do those. My kids have claimed these already for their toys. Brooklyn said that she had some stuffed animals that needed shawls, and so she was going to be taking these for them. She didn't even really ask. She's just like, by the way, Mom, they're mine. I kind of had the fun idea of maybe like framing a couple, or you doing a little, I don't know, swatch board. I don't know if any of you watch, oh, her name's escaping me, Amy. She's from Britain. She has a podcast. Why can't I think of it? Stranded Knitting or something like that. She has like a big swatch board behind her in her little knitting area where she pins all of her swatches. I'm like, well, that would be kind of fun to do, to, you know, just kind of like hang these from a little board or something along with some of my other swatches that I've done just as decoration. But I don't know, we'll see. Brooklyn will probably end up getting them. So that's kind of my finished object for the week. Kind of. In other knitting news, I have also been working on what's on my Ravelry project page is called Mom's Buffalo Vest. This is my very highly modified Meridian Cardigan by Hohi Locatelli. The major modifications are that her pattern was written with a very light fingering weight yarn, knit on, I think, like size 2, 2.5, maybe it was US 2.5 needles. And the yarn that I am using is more in the sport weight category, and I'm knitting it on US 5s. So gauge was an issue. I did lots of math in many different ways and finally came up with a configuration that I think is working well. Fewer, basically like taking out some stitches in some strategic spots and some short rows in some strategic spots. It seems to be working up very nicely. So you can see like this edge is much longer because you knit like this side every single time. And this side is where a lot of the short row shaping happens. So it's much shorter. The last time you saw this knit up in any significant size, I was ripping it out because I was obviously going to run out of yarn. I am 3.5 repeats into this, and I'm still on my first ball of yarn. So I'm feeling a little bit better about how much yarn it's eating up and how much yarn it's using. I do have to get to 44.5 inches measured on the short side per the pattern. So I'm still not entirely confident that I'm going to have enough yarn. But maybe, crossing my fingers, I'll have enough to do the entire flounce, which is what this piece that I'm knitting on now. And then, I don't know, maybe like buy some actual, because the Buffalo Wool Company, which is where I'm pretty sure about this from, the fiber that I spun, sells like already spun yarn. So I kind of get the feeling that like maybe if I really have to, I can order yarn, like already made buffalo yarn, and finish the back piece. I don't know. I'm going to knit to a good portion of the yarn is gone and kind of see where it's heading and then decide like measurement wise what's happening with it. But overall, I'm really happy with the pattern and I'm happy with how my math is turning out. I really love the cable, even though I think I might have miscounted in a couple of spots, but I like how it's mostly reversible. This is the right side of the cable, but that's the wrong side of the cable. So it's kind of like a reversible cable. I like that. I also am really in love with how this double seed stitch is looking. It's so pretty. I like it. So yeah, that's working up nicely, and we're just gonna kind of wait and see what happens with the yarn situation on that project. I don't know. It was one of those projects where I was like, oh yeah, I'll definitely have enough yarn to make a vest, but maybe not this particular vest. Like this one seems to have much more fabric to it than what I was thinking. So I don't know. I don't want to have to be like, no, Mom, sorry, you can't have that vest because I don't have enough yarn for it. You're going to get this teeny tiny plain vest that you won't ever wear. Like, I actually want to make her something that she'll wear. So, I don't know. It's a Christmas present. We're going to try to figure it out. I also did a little bit of crocheting this week and pulled out my Granny Stripes blanket. So last time you saw it, it was down here in this pink section. And I was working, I think I had finished the pink section and I was like almost up to this yellow part right here. So kind of in this general area is where you saw it last. And now I've gotten all of this done. So this section right in here after that orange bit, from that black all the way up to here, was some of my hand spun, which this, yeah, let me show you. This pink and blue and black that I did on the Hohi, it was my leftovers from that. And then also a little bit of this purpley color. You can see kind of right in there is where I started some of that. So, yay. And then the gray, this gray bit is the castle walls I don't know if I can find a good section of that or not. That castle wall. So basically I put my Hohi scraps into my mystery blanket, and then I just grabbed the purple as random stock yarn. So I really like that section and how it turned out. Yay. That's the night. Sorry, I got a little choked up there. My favorite thing about this Granny Stripes blanket is that it is kind of like a memory blanket of like, oh, I remember when I worked with that yarn, or I remember knitting socks out of those, or oh, I remember that shawl. So I'm very happy with how this is working up. It is still so small because I hardly ever break it out to work on it anymore. Maybe this, as it's getting cooler, I think I will probably work on it a lot more because I like a good blanket project in the winter. One that I can basically like lay out over my lap and knit on to keep warm while I'm knitting it. So, let's see. I think I'll talk, yeah, spinning. We'll do spinning because it leads into, I'll talk to you why I'm spinning. And this is kind of, it's knitting related. It's project related. So last week I was like, I have these finished skeins of yarn and I want to put them together and maybe I'll do the fade. I jumped in and I bought the What the Fade pattern from Andrea Mowry because I had these 3 skeins of yarn. This was from Once Upon a Corgi, the Hedwig. This was from Into the World, Reinerdine, and this was Knit Picks Full Circle. And I was like, yes, I want to maybe do a hand spun What the Fade, the mystery knit along that's coming up here at the end of the month. But I was going to have to do some stash diving. Well, in my stash diving adventures, I found this in my hand spun stash from, I can't remember when I spun this, how long ago it was, to the point where I don't even remember, like, I didn't keep the tag, so I have no idea the fiber content, though it feels like a merino of some kind. Maybe it has a little bit of silk in it because it's got a little bit of a sheen. But I thought, well, that will go in there quite nicely. So I have 4 skeins now and I need 6. And I was like, well, if I have these 4, I can totally come up with 2 more to go with it. So that's what I'm doing. I came across in my stash, just get a bump of it out, a little bit of it out. So this is kind of a brownish gray, mostly gray Shetland fiber. So I spun up half of it and I'm working on a second half, and I'll do another 2-ply out of that. So I kind of have this color that I think will go well between these 2. And then I'm going to spin up. Let me put this back. And then I'm going to spin up some of this. So it's from Sincerely Yours. It's a superwash merino. Let me see if I can get in here without making too much of a... I know that crinkly noise is horrible when you're listening to a podcast. I apologize. But I want you to be able to see. So this is white, light gray to a greenish brown color. And I think that will go nicely next to the Hedwig. So those are my other 2 colors, that gray, oh sorry, I'm going to put it down now. That gray and that kind of greenish color are going to go in with these. I had kind of, for like a hot second, thought about spinning up this, which is from Feckle Fiber. So it's kind of like browns and blacks and almost like a reddish color in it. And I thought about doing that and then this one, but I don't know, that they might be a little too close. Like basically instead of doing the plain brown, doing this one. But I think it would be too close to this one in color. So I'm sticking with the dark brown, the variegated-y, and then doing that marled, and then doing the plain gray into the creamy, and then the one with the little kind of pops of green in it at the end. So there's my What the Fade colors that I've picked, and hopefully I have enough time knitting like these three and then I'll have that other one done, and then this one, like, so I think I'll have enough time. I don't know that I'll be able to keep up completely with the clues, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It kind of depends on how the clues, how big they are, like how much clues, like how much knitting each clue contains. There is a brioche section somewhere in this pattern, and I've never done brioche, so I think that'll probably slow me up quite a bit. But yeah, I think I'll have enough time to spin those and get all of that done. So that is all I've been working on this week. Like I said, super short episode this week because there just hasn't been a whole lot going on. Kids are still enjoying school. I'm enjoying the weather. And that's kind of all that's happening here in Just One More Thing land. So I hope you guys are having a wonderful end of summer. I know lots of kids have been going back to school this week and next. And I hope everyone's getting back into the routines and enjoying some fall knitting of your own. I'm pretty much just posting now on Ravelry. There's still a Facebook page. I'm just not that good about getting on Facebook these days. I'm on Instagram quite a bit, so you can catch me up there. I would love to see what you are knitting on, so feel free to post that in our Ravelry group. Or comment here on YouTube. So, alrighty. We'll see you next week, hopefully with more content. And not quite so late in the day, but we will see you soon.